let me guess, you guys click on this video because you want to know why you are struggling to speak English. Look, I'm not a native speaker, so I will be able to help you in this video. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you why you are struggling to speak English, although you understand English very, very well. Like, when you read books, when you watch movies, or in the cinema and theater, you understand everything, or you even understand when your friends speak. But when you want to say something back, you kind of hesitate, or you have like no idea how to portray some of the information back, although you understand all the information, or you kind of struggle to speak in English back to other people. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you why that is the case and how you can overcome this. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing is passive versus... Get started, just keep in mind, the two things that we're considering today is when you understand when other people speak, you understand them really well, that's one fact, and the other is when you speak to them, you're struggling to speak back. That's the two main things that we'll cover. So for the first thing, when you understand when other people think, when other people say, or when other people tell you in English or speak in English, or whether you consume content online in English, or whether you watch a movie in English, subtitles, or just dub, sub, whatever in English, and that's when it's called passive. Passive is basically when it enters without you realizing it, but you do realize it. I'm not really explaining really well, but okay, so that's passive. And the other thing is active. Active is when you have to act on it, and the second thing is active. So when you are speaking back to someone else, that's when active occurs. So just keep in mind those two things before we actually dive deep into this. So let's go. Alright, just keep in mind, I'll tell you guys a little bit about my story and my history before we get started. A disclaimer. So I used to be... Okay, so Burmese is my mother... What is wrong with my voice today? But Burmese is my mother tongue language. So English is not necessarily my native language and is not my first language, but English as my second language. So I started learning English ever since as long as I can remember, but I go to international school, but it's not international school, if that makes sense. It's one of those schools where they teach the curriculum in English, but everything is in Burmese, everything, even talking to each other, or even, translating and interviewing and getting report cards, or getting reviews back from teachers, and everything is in Burmese. It's quite strange. It's not international school, if that makes sense. So I went there, and by the time I reached like grade 10, 12, I wasn't speaking English. I understand English. I wasn't communicating my friends through English because I don't need to. I'm Burmese and my schools is in Burmese and everyone is Burmese, so everyone can speak Burmese language, if that makes sense. So I don't necessarily need to use English, but once I get to the UK, after my IGCSEs, after my O-levels, I started to struggle a lot. But before that is when I actually started to struggle, So that was when I was taking IELTS, which is, I'll leave the long form here, what IELTS means. It's when I have to take English tests, English proficiency tests in order to get to the UK. That's when I was struggling a lot because I didn't read back in the days, like a lot. And so that's when I started to realize that I have this struggle, and it has been 6 or 7 years already. No, actually like 7 or 8 years since then. But I'm sharing this video because I'm doing a little bit of YouTube here, and if you're new to this channel, my name is Vincent and I'm a Burmese in the UK. So yeah, from there onwards I started to learn English by different means, and mainly through one thing, and that's what I'm going to cover later in this video, and how to overcome the fear of not speaking or not being able to speak to others, or not speaking how you want it to be, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what's going to be covered. Okay, going back to the point, the first thing is just fear of speaking, like fear of mistakes, like fear of getting it wrong, fear of kind of failure, fear of thinking what other people think. That is one of the things. Like, let's say for example, if you're learning English and you start learning like a couple of words or two, but you start to practice with your like friend or your colleagues, and if you have fear of like fear of failing, as in using the wrong words or people laughing at you when you use the wrong words, then you won't necessarily get to where you want to be, because that's how you learn basically. Like, if it's wrong, point it out, then they'll tell you that's not how you speak. Like, for example, I still struggle. Like even last year for me. Okay, I know how I'm supposed to like pronounce this. It's breakfast, right? Sorry, breakfast. Breakfast. I always pronounce breakfast. What the freak? Okay, I'm not talking about me, but yeah, I'm like, still, you know, it's taught and learn, that kind of thing. It's one of those things where you just practice and you get better. So don't be scared of making mistakes. Never be scared of making mistakes. Just keep on talking or keep on like speaking. When it's wrong, they will correct you. Okay? Right. And that's the first point. And the second point is confidence. Bro, confidence. You need confidence to do anything. Okay, let me tell you about my dad. Like, my dad, he speaks English, but not in fluently English. As a beginner English, he speaks like really critical words like have, she, her, like, you know, like do, does, those kind of things, like very critical word. But his confidence like 200%, bro. Like 200% of confidence. So, like, with that confidence, he can communicate with anyone. That's just crazy. Like ever since I was young, I've been like looking up to him, because bro's been like communicating with other business people by just yes and no, or I don't know, like just just like, you know, critical terms that's needed to be like get it done. Because the main thing is, when he talks, his posture is right, his facial expression is right, he knows what he's speaking, and he has like body sign languages, and people read those things when you are like interpreting. Even though if you get it wrong in the first place, it's just fine, bro. Like, it's totally fine. Then they will correct you. I mean, obviously it matters in like business settings and everything. It's better to, you know, get proficient in English, but confidence is the main thing when you speak English as well. Not just English, in any language. Try to speak more, practice more, and that's how you can overcome it. And that's one of the reasons why you can't actually speak, because you're kind of scared of what other people think, and you think you might get it wrong. But yeah, confidence. Alright, another thing is, everything is kind of linked together, to be fair. Another thing is, English as a second language kind of deters, sorry, if you're struggling to speak English, I'm gonna speak more in basic terms, if that's okay. So, if you're struggling to speak English, like speaking English, what stops you from speaking English? There are multiple things. But the first thing is, when you're as a second language English speaker, you kind of say something, or when you speak to someone, you kind of want to say something in your own native language, because that's how you communicate with people, right? That's how you like interact with people. But you need that little translation that's going on, the processing in your mind that needs to translate this word to that, this word to that, in order to portray the communication, in order to portray the information that you want it to be. So that's when you have a little issues. And also, you need to make sure that you have like a sufficient amount of vocabulary, obviously, because vocabulary is really important, which are words that you use. Even if you don't get to a a highly advanced and sophisticated words, you just need like simple terms, go, went, gone, that kind of thing, and get the tenses right. You don't even need to get the tenses right. All you need is just like subject, verb, and object, and maybe adjectives if you want to use, or yeah. So like, how you construct a sentence is another thing, but I'm sure you will know what I'm talking about since you're watching this video in English and I'm speaking in English. So yeah, it's basically thought processing and how you translate it back to the language. That kind of deters how you can speak English as well, and that's where you have to get used to it. And For me, okay, I'm gonna look back to me. I'm kind of a, I wouldn't say a terrible example. It's a terrible example anyway. I'm a terrible example because for English, for me, I naturally don't translate from my native language to English. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of like a separate brain, a separate language speaking part of my brain that that develops over time, if that makes sense. But if you're in the stages of trying to learn English or trying to improve your English skills, I think translating is a very good one. But as you get faster, as you get easier, as you get better, then you will be so much faster in translating that in like milliseconds and everything. I think that's what's happening for me, but I'm not really sure because I'm not, scientifically scientist. So yeah. But for me, I think it's like a separate two kind of brains, and I have like two kind of personalities. I would say, like speaking in English and how you communicate things, and other thing is in Burmese and when I want to act in Burmese, and which is good to some extent. And I have like issues as well when I go back home and communicate with my parents and all the natives and everyone back home. I kind of like a dual personality, but I wouldn't cover that because you don't want to watch, you're not listening, you're not watching this video because you want to hear about that. So yeah, so that's how you can that's why you're struggling basically to speak in English. And okay, finally, how you can overcome this. Very simple. It's simple as shit. Okay, so tea break. Sorry. So it's really cold here for some reason. It's December, so it's really cold. Right. The last thing is how you can overcome that. I've covered a little bit of that, which is practice. Practice makes perfect. That's so easy. Like, it's just practice and more practice. And the most important thing is when you have limited places to practice, like you have limited people to talk to in that language, for example in English, then that's when you will struggle a little bit. And I want you to kind of speak with yourself. Okay, you might be thinking, what the fuck, this is like, what the hell is going on? This is not the right, okay, I'm just gonna, no, okay, you gotta speak with yourself more. I'm not sure about you guys, but I do speak with myself a lot, ever since I was young. Practice English in your own time. Try to speak what you want to convey, and convey your information in English, and try to speak that to yourself. Things like, oh, what am I doing? Okay, I should be doing that. That kind of things, like just talk to yourself in English. And that's how you can practice if you haven't got limited access. But I'm telling you, this is just a just sharing my knowledge and what I know as an experience of an English speaker English as a second language speaker. So there are a lot of free courses, I think, like online and everywhere you can find, or like even in YouTube that you can find. If you want to look out for them, then yeah, just feel free to look wherever. I'm not gonna drop a link because I have no idea where they are. But yeah, or you can just buy a book and you could just start cracking, because I'm sure there are a lot of books to improve your English proficiency skills. But yeah, I think that's all from me, and I hope you guys find this very insightful, and I hope you guys are not still here watching this video. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.